This is part one of our interview with Gail Turner, a female expat in Medellin, Colombia. Follow along. Jump right in. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. I am here with Gail today. Say hey, Gail.
Hey, Gail. Hey.
Okay, Gail is actually in Medellin, Colombia. She's one of my subscribers, and she reached out to me recently to let me know that she was there. In other words, to let me know that female solo travelers are actually in Medellin, which piqued my interest and made me think, I need to reach out to her again and see if I can't do this interview so we can learn a little bit more about what it takes to become a solo female traveler. So we know, number one, you're in Medellin. Where are you originally from?
I'm originally born and raised in Washington, D.C. And then from there, the rest of my adult life, well, the majority of my adult life was right over the border in Maryland, in the suburbs in Maryland. So,
what part of Maryland?
I've lived in Bowie, so mainly Prince George's County. And then the last 3 or 4 years, I was in Baltimore County. And yeah, so that's been pretty much it.
Okay, know them very well. Lived in PG County too once I left DC. So you have been in Medellin for how long now?
Okay, so this time around, so I was here last year it ended up being 6 months. It was supposed to be 3. The last 3 I was illegal because I overstayed my visa and I didn't realize it. So I was here for 6 months last year. And so then this year I came in February. So I've been here since February. And then obviously in March, we got locked down. So I'm still here.
Okay. So what happened? Well, so are you over now? So you're over the 6 months now, or are you right at the 6 months?
Well, no, it doesn't. Now it doesn't matter because the borders were closed. So they did not force you to adhere to that time, to the time frame.
So they automatically renew it?
No, they haven't done anything. It's like because the borders aren't supposed to open back up for international until September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at that point you can make a decision. But at this point, I have put in for my long-term visa. So I'm hoping that all of that will be done by the time the lockdown is lifted.
Okay. So, but you're in good standings right now. So
so I'm in good standing right now. Yeah.
You were here a year ago for the first time. How did you choose to come to Medellin?
It was kind of crazy. I mean, not really, because it's like everything else. Once you make a decision that you want to do something, then you kind of start putting it out there. And so I began, like most people, going through YouTube, and looking at places people were going. And Medellin kept coming up. Now, luckily for me, I've traveled all of my adult life. Okay, I've been all over the world, but I've only traveled mainly I traveled for work and as a vacationer. This is the first time I've actually put my mindset into the frame of mind of saying, where do I want to go that I want to live? And so that's what I was looking for when I'd gone onto YouTube. What places are out there to want to live? And Medellin kept coming up of the various places. Now I thought about Medellin because now prior to that, Medellin was not even on my radar. I mean, I'd been to Brazil before and Caracas, Venezuela, but I never thought about going to Colombia. But as I was researching, I looked at this. I looked at Costa Rica, and I thought about Mexico. I thought about Belize and Panama, but Medellin just kept coming up. So I said, well, let me go see what it's like, and that's why I came last year. And so when I got here, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then at that point, though, I said, I have to leave because I don't want to because I kind of wanted a smorgasbord. Okay, that's kind of how I looked at it. And so, but like most smorgasbords, you might find a dish that you like and you just stay on that dish and you don't test out anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you know what? I need to leave here and go to a couple other places so that I can have something to compare, to see if this is really where I want to be. And that's really what I'd planned to do. I had chosen Medellin, and then I was going to go to Panama and I was going to go to Portugal. And this time around, and so, but I got here and got stuck, so I didn't get a chance to go haven't had a chance to go anywhere else. But that was how, just through my research, and I just, it just kept popping up every time I would read something about traveling or people who were looking for places to live outside of the U.S. And so
Okay,
that
so
was it.
your first trip, you stayed there for 6 months.
Right.
So you set out ahead of time. You said, let me go check it out, but I'm going to stay at least 6 months to see how it goes.
No, I said I'm going to go check it out, and I was supposed to stay for 3 months.
Okay, so you extended.
And then that's when I found out that, well, what transpired was I had gone to extend it, but the day that I went to extend it is when I found out that I was one day overdue. And once you're overdue, they won't let you extend. And so at that point, it was like, they say, okay, well, you can leave and then come back, or something like that. And I didn't really feel like doing that. And so by the time I kind of, I'll use the word, got it together, trying to get somebody, because the other thing was going in, talking to immigration. I cannot speak, I couldn't speak Spanish. So that was interesting. So the next time around, I met someone who would go in with me. And so he was interpreting for me and all of that. So that was cool. So, but by that time I was now like 14 days, almost like a month overdue. So then, and the thing is, you look up and it's like the time has gone by. And so when I looked up again, literally I was like right at almost like at my 6 month mark, And so at that point, when I discovered that, and I went into immigration, I was like, okay, well, you know what? Let me go back home. So, and all I had to do was pay a fine. I think, I don't know, it was like about $150 fine or something. So I was like, all right, well, I need to go. Let me go back home. My family and I were going on a cruise. This was like last March. So my family and I were going on a cruise anyway, like in July. So I'm like, okay, fine. Let me go back home, go on the cruise, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do after that. And so that's kind of how it worked out.
Okay, so you just brought up a question. Family, what does your family think about you being in Medellin, Colombia?
Oh, they're fine with it. Now I have 2 adult sons, and they are accustomed to me doing stuff like this. When it was interesting. Literally about, oh God, 10 or so years ago, when my youngest son turned 18. I actually, when I realized that, well, first of all, he started bragging about his independence. He was now grown, right? And so it hit me, oh, shoot, I'm grown too. I don't have anybody I got to take care of. I'm divorced. And so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And at that point, I had actually planned to go and live in Aruba, because I had been to Aruba before. And so now when I had announced I was going to go live in Aruba, mostly my sisters was like, why? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? I'm like, because if I can, why not? I've never lived outside of the country before. And I've always thought it was fascinating because, of course, living in DC, we've got people coming from all over the world. And I always thought that was interesting, that people had left their homeland to come to another country to live, to work, to go to school, and all of that. I had never done that before, and I was always curious about it. So it wasn't really unusual once I did decide to go. And in fact, most of my friends was like, oh, I'm really jealous. How do I do that? Or I would love to do that too. And so yeah, so they were pretty, supportive of it.
Well, when you
So
chose Medellin, are they considering Medellin as being safe? For us, when we tell people, well, for us, for anyone, when we tell people that we're even visiting Medellin, Colombia, Medellin connotates one thing and Colombia
yeah,
the other. And
yeah.
so the safety concerns come in. And being a female solo traveler, I'm sure somebody had to say something.
Yeah, I had, and now it wasn't my family. I had a couple of girlfriend. There was a girlfriend of mine that said, "Ooh, you got to be careful." And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Have you looked at the United States lately?" Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm like, I'm not concerned. But again, as I was going through the information, and they had talked about the transformation that Medellin had made, and you know, it's unfortunate, but it is the way it is with the media. But the show Narcos has really done a lot of damage because people still think that that is what's going on. And it's like, that was 30 years ago. That's not what's happening now.
Yeah.
And, but usually when people bring up the safety, I bring up what's going on in the United States.
Mhm.
And I don't have to think about, is somebody gonna shoot me for going to a concert,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Mhm.
or because they don't want to put a mask on, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I have not had anything. I haven't had anything negative happen to me. I know that there is. I'll use the word petty crime. I've been in an Uber a few times, and I would have my phone, I'm taking pictures, and he's like, "Oh, put your phone away," because I have both an iPhone and an Android, and so I've heard that they will take your phone,
Yeah.
um, stuff like that, but you know, I,
But so far so good.
yeah, I
So
haven't
what
really
part of
had
town are
anything.
you in? What part of town do you live?
I am now. I This time around, I am in Sabaneta.
Okay.
I what Last year I was in Laureles,
Mhm.
and so I was in Sabaneta and Laureles. That's the other thing I did too. I just thought about that as a part of me going. One of the things that I had planned to do was to um, review Airbnbs. So what I wanted to do was to go. I'm like, let me go to different Airbnbs and write about them. Blog about what the hosts are like and what the different Airbnbs are like, so you can kind of give people that idea. So when I came last time, I did that a lot. I was going to a lot of different places. And so I love Laureles. I had a hard time this time trying to decide where I was going to be, because I really like Laureles, but I really like Sabaneta too. So
Mhm.
it just turned out that when I was looking for a place, well, I had an Airbnb when I first came here this time in Sabaneta, and then I happened to see in one of my Facebook groups that there was someone who wanted to rent out her apartment, and she wanted someone who wanted to stay for at least 3 months, because she was planning to go back to where she lived, which was in Germany. She was going to go to Germany for a while and then come back. And so I ended up just coming to her place in Sabaneta, and then we got locked down, so nobody has gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Sabaneta is right on the train, on the metro line, right?
Yeah, that's what they say. So let me tell you about me I've been on the train one time, and again, it was I had reached out to a YouTuber that was following. He was here. This was last year. He was here, and so he was like, "Oh, I'll take you around." So we got on the train and we went on the Metro Cabla and all of that. But I have not been on the train since, because I don't speak Spanish. I have this fear in my head that I'm gonna end up, in Timbuktu someplace, or I'm not gonna know where to get off. So I either walk or I take a Uber or a Didi or something. I don't take taxis, but I take a Uber, or they have the Didi now.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
you just brought up, and that was one of my questions too. You do not speak Spanish? You do not speak any Spanish?
I don't. Last year I started taking lessons, and it was great because she would come to my apartment twice a week, and so I started, but then I had to go back home. So I went back home, and whatever I learned is gone. So when I came back, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. I know that the one of the schools here, you can go and take lessons for free a couple times a week. So I was going to go do that. And then we got locked down. And so it's
Mhm.
been interesting because this is, and especially in Sabaneta, it is not, it's few and far between of people that you will find that speak English here.
I would say
Um,
that's all of Medellin, at least. If
well,
you find
but
2 out of 100, you're doing good.
well, like when I was in Laurelis, I was able to find people who did, and then I know like in Poblado, because that's where all of the tourists go.
Visitors, yeah. Hmm.
I figured they, but I don't, I can't stand Poblado, El Poblado. I do not like it. It's too much for me.
It's a
It's
lot.
just too much. It's a lot, and so yeah, so every once in a while, and even like some of my guys that will deliver and stuff to me, or like even some of the Uber people, Uber guys, they will speak like broken English. A number of them have spoken broken English, and their English was far better than my Spanish.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to, I know a few words. The challenge is this: the words, it's not whether I know how to ask how to get somewhere. Do I understand when they're telling me how to get
Yes.
somewhere?
I had
That is the
someone
thing.
comment last night. I think it's Victor, and he said that he actually lived in Sabaneta, and Belen, I think, would be his two choices. I like Belen too. But
Yes, yeah.
yeah, he brought up that about learning Spanish, and as far as it should be a requirement, really. It should be at the top of your checklist before you get there. Hence the reason I did the video last night. For those who
Okay.
may not take extra time to learn, I mean, I understood enough before I went. I can be understood, but like he said, most of what people learn are questions. So you know how to say,
Yes.
where do I go this? How much is this? Where is that? How do I, but when they answer, especially, like my enunciation is pretty good. So if I rattle off, yeah, yo hablo muy poquito español, que mi ex esposa es latina, así, and I start, they go, oh, and then it's just,
Yeah. See,
you have to
so
learn much
yeah,
slower.
and that was the thing. When I was researching, no one, I don't remember hearing anyone say that. Um, One person, I remember him saying, "Oh, on your flight over, you could probably learn or pick up a few words, which would be good." And and that's what I learned. I'm like, that is not true.
Mhm.
And so what I tell people is, no, you should know something, um, before getting here, because this is not a bilingual country by and large.
Mhm.
It's just not.
Exactly.
Um,
Even in the tourist areas, very,
right,
very little
right,
English.
exactly. But I've been lucky. I have been very lucky because when I was like last year when I came here, um all of my Uber, like all of the Uber, I mean not Ubers, all of the Airbnbs I stayed in, the hosts were English speaking at some point. Then again, I was on Facebook, and there was someone that was had apartments he was renting. Well, it turned out he was from the United States, but he lives here now. He's married to a Colombian. So, and that was in Laureles. And
Mhm.
so he helped. So, he was there. I didn't have to worry about it. And then when I was looking for someone to go with me to immigration to see if I can keep from being deported, um, he hook me up with someone he's a tour operator. He's like an all around outer, right? He will help you with whatever you need. He spoke English, and so because he's from Colombia, but he was educated in the U.S. and then he came back here. And so when I came back this time, what I did, because he's a driver, so I sent him a message and it's like, hey, Julio, I'm coming back. Can you pick me up from the airport? So he picked me up from the airport, so I didn't have, any issues. And and then the landlady that I have here, she's from Germany, so she speaks English. She speaks English and Spanish and German. So the only and because I've been locked down, I don't have anybody to talk to anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I'm in a gated community, a gated apartment, and so it's kind of funny because they know I can't speak Spanish, and so they kind of help me out, and we do a lot of sign language.
But let's put that out for anyone who's watching. Learn some Spanish before you
learn.
go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Muy importante. It's very important that you learn.
It's really, and and especially if you make a decision that you want to be here for longer than a week's vacation, then if you don't know it beforehand, make it a priority that, okay, I've got to learn Spanish, because you miss out on a lot.
Communication is everything.
It is. Yeah. It really is. And so.
Have you been to Sweet Georgia Cafe?
No, I learned about Sweet Georgia Cafe, I think from listening to Carlton, because I was trying to find some places to go, some other places to go. And I'm like, oh man, I've got to go there. But again,
that's a must go to for an expat in general, let alone an African American.
Well, see,
in Colombia, there is a network of people who are there, and any information you need, extensions or service, like you heard me talking to Ed. He was one of my crew. Like when I go, I know I could see him. I know I could see James. I know I would run into to Jason. I know these people would be there. Herschel, these guys are there, and Rob, of course, the owner. But you got to be kidding me. You've been there this long and never been there. If you want American food, you want to speak English and be understood and have, let me tell you something, he does it big. Last 4th of July was big there. Every American holiday, he does it there. So during Thanksgiving or whatever else, you can relive it there without feeling missing home. You have to, and
I don't miss home right now.
I think they're reopen or they're going to reopen really soon.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if they were open or not.
Oh,
yeah,
food is phenomenal, and it's worth the trip. Rob is the owner; he's going to be there.
Right.
But yeah, that's where you'll run into. I mean, Carlton comes by. I've hung out with Carlton. Carlton's a good guy. Sam and Tasha, met them there too.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
They're good for service too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I donated to Sam, the thing that Sam had set up for the people here, during this time. So I had reached out to him. So yeah, and Tasha is in one of my women's group Facebook groups, women in Medellin. So she's in one of those groups, and I've talked to her a couple of times.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I guess the main thing that women have to think of when they go anywhere by themselves, even in their own city, is their safety. So what are your thoughts on safety, and how did you prepare yourself for going to another country, and especially staying for any length of time?
Well, one of the things I did was a couple of things I did. One was I joined a Facebook group. Like I said, it's called Women in Medellin. So, and they were always, very helpful. The other thing is, for real, and again, I guess because I also have traveled all around, some of it is just kind of common sense. You don't have to, I don't wear jewelry and stuff, but if you've got nice jewelry, you don't need to have all that on. So it's like, don't bring attention to yourself. Don't do things that's going to bring attention to yourself. So that's kind of like number one. The other thing is, like, a number of the places that I have gone, rarely have I just gone by myself, because again, because of the Facebook groups and the people that you meet, I would end up, I've ended up meeting other people and being, making relationships with other people, other friends here. So when we would go out together. So I would, trying to make sure that I'm not, especially at night, especially at night. And again, and I didn't do that when I was at home. I wasn't going out at night by myself. For me, luckily too, I don't drink. Meaning, I'll have a glass of wine or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't go anywhere where I know if I don't get drunk, and I don't get drunk. I'm not gonna put myself in a position where I can't think or my head isn't clear, because that also kind of makes you a target as well. So most of the things are literally common sense, and then having conversations with other people. In one of my Facebook groups, there was one young lady that said that she was out jogging, and it was right where I lived in Laureles, right across from the university. So she said she was out and she had her cell phone in her hand and she wasn't paying attention, and some people had come up to her, and I think it was at gunpoint, because she initially tried to fight them, and then she was like, "Ooh, no, let me just let this go." But then what she did was she posted up. She was like, don't do that. And so one of the things I said was like, hold up, I'm blogging. I have to have my phone out. I'm taking pictures. I'm taking video, right? She's like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. Well, the other thing, and again, this is me. I try to be conscious of my surroundings, but I'm not going to also let fear freeze me from doing anything either. So I don't want that to happen. So I usually tell people, have common sense. Try not to draw a lot of attention to yourself, especially with money and jewelry and, the bestest, nicest thing. The other thing I did was, when I go out, like, I'll have like one credit card and one debit card. So I have a credit card and a debit card. I took a picture of I made a copy of my passport. And so I leave my passport at home and just have a copy in my wallet, and my ID. So, because I thought, well, if somebody were to ever take my phone, because my phone is in a wallet. So I have like an iPhone wallet, right? So, and then it has a strap on it.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this right quick. Where do you keep your money? Where do you keep your credit card and your cash? Inside the phone case?
Yeah, because it's in my, like I said, I have my phone case is a wallet thing. Mm-hmm. It's a wallet. Okay. So yeah, so that's what I carry.
There's a
and then there's a strap on it. Yeah. Okay. There's a wrist strap on it. So I do that, and then I have two phones, because that's the other thing. I'm always afraid if somebody take a phone, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I have two phones. I have an iPhone and I have an Android phone. So I just try to have a backup,
And so people also need to know that a phone still works even if you don't have service. You can still use the Wi-Fi. So as long as you have WeChat, WhatsApp, you can still make a phone call that way also. So it's always good to keep that. Doesn't matter whether you're going to use it or not, or put a chip in it or not. Put a SIM card in it. Just make sure you have an extra phone that you can tuck away. It works. It holds battery life. But it's something in case something goes wrong with your current phone, whether you're there for working or personal, you have this as a backup.
Right. So that's a good one. Exactly.
So, so you hold everything in your hand, and so if it gets snatched, that link may be strong, but
see, here's the thing. It's like, okay, if somebody wants something bad enough, they're gonna take it. If they take it, okay, whatever.
Especially if they got a gun,
Yeah, okay. So, because there's only so much you can do. Now, one of the other things is everybody has backpacks here. So, because that's the other thing that I have. I got and I think I saw this somewhere when you're talking about safety. I want to call it a pouch. It's a thing that you sling over you don't hang it on your shoulder, but it comes across you, and it's like a little pouch, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, especially if I'm just going to go make a quick thing to the store, it has a place that I can put money, so I'll put money in there and my key. Um, but I have to have my phone. I'm gonna have my phone with me no matter what. So, um, but there have been times too that I would put my phone like in my backpack or something. But and then just also go about your business. Don't have the expectation that something's going to happen to you, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times the more you think about it and fear about it,
Well, you create it.
then
Yeah.
you're going to create it, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to be about it. So that's the other thing too. So
Mm-hmm.
like, again, I don't think I do anything extra that I don't do at home in general. In general,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's a little bit, but not much.
It's always good to go with someone else too, and that person can watch you when you're taking pictures and vice versa. So you can.
Yeah, but I don't have. But see, here's the thing: it's just me. I don't have anybody else. I mean, on a permanent basis. So I have to do what I can do. Now, one thing I did do, I can't. I have to tell you how it works out. I just ordered. It's supposed to come next week. I just ordered sunglasses that have camera in it. Have a camera and a So I can't wait to see how that works out, because that way I should be able to take pictures of what I'm doing. I can't take pictures of me, but I can take pictures of what I'm doing, and I'm not carrying a camera. I don't have to carry my phone. So I can't wait to see how that turns out.
Yeah, I used to sell those. They come in different qualities, so it just depends.
Okay.
And as
Okay.
long as you bought it from the U.S. too.
Well,
Um,
I got it from Amazon, but it don't come.
yeah,
It just said as long as it comes from the U.S., it still probably come from China.
yeah. Believe
So
that. Believe that.
yeah.
Okay, so any suggestions for other female travelers? How to pick a place? How long should you stay when you first get there? I read somewhere that you should focus on that first night where you want to stay. Don't tell people you're alone, unless you say, I'm constantly speaking to my family and, I have somebody here at the hotel. I leave the TV on whenever I'm gone. When I leave here, 50-50 chance in my apartment, I leave the TV on. In a hotel room, every time I leave the TV on. And it's just one more thing to make people think
That
someone
makes
else
me
is there. Yeah.
right.
Sometimes
Huh.
there's somebody in the hallway, I talk to myself. I say, yeah, I'll be right back. I'm going. And I said, hey, everybody, it only takes that one little thing. So they say, oh, somebody's home,
Oh,
when people
that's
aren't home.
interesting. That's interesting. And I'll be honest with you. Okay, so no, I haven't done that. Um, and I guess because I keep thinking, well, nobody can understand me, and I can't understand them. So it's so I had not thought about. But going back to what you initially said, and I was thinking about this because I think someone else had asked me, when I think about when I was making a decision about what I wanted, I first had to determine, and I think this is probably true with everybody. You should determine, like, what kind of person are you? Are you a person who just wants to be alone? Are you a person who wants to be in a big city or in a suburban area? Do you want, like, I knew I wanted to be someplace warm. Now, I would prefer to be someplace not only warm but near the water. But and I have to go to the water if I want to go near water here, right? So, I was trying to figure out what characteristics that I want. And so when I initially came here, again, because I was by myself, and it was almost like it wasn't spur of the moment, but it wasn't all mapped out either, you know? And so when I first got here, I have had a lot of positive energy and force that has been around me. Because when I first got here, the plane was late. So it was about midnight, right? I made an assumption that, oh, everybody has Uber. And so I called Uber. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 weeks later that I found that at that time Uber was illegal, right? But if you can imagine, it's pitch black dark. Okay, I got a hold of an Uber. I didn't realize that there was going to be this language barrier. The Uber driver.
Let me ask you right quick. I've been under there. I've called for an Uber. I know exactly where you are. I know exactly where you're standing. Did they text you and ask you, hey, what are you wearing?
No.
They didn't. They just showed up and drove up?
The guy just said, where are you?
In English?
And no, they were using, and that's the other thing I heard you say this on one of your YouTubes. Yes. Google Translate is God. Right? So yeah, he was just like, where are you? So we were just kind of going back and forth there.
Okay.
And he found me. So okay, so now we're off, right? And I'm it's night. I don't know where I am. I don't know how to. And it wasn't until, and the airport is about an hour away from the main city. And I can't even really remember exactly where I was in Medellin, because it was an Airbnb as well, but I can't remember exactly what area I was in. But it took a while, and so it wasn't until I'm driving, I'm thinking, dang, this dude could do whatever. But then I'm like, okay, no, that's why I said a lot of times you just have to go with faith because I didn't know any better. I just didn't know. And so the other thing that happened when he dropped me off, and I had all my bags and stuff. Now he did ask me for money. Now I didn't know that was, and I was used to giving the tip, through the phone on an Uber. But again, I didn't know, and and it was fine. I mean, I gave him some money, but I left my iPhone in his Uber, and so I'm like, oh crap, I left my iPhone. So luckily, again, I was at an Airbnb. That Airbnb host spoke English. And so he was able to contact Uber, and I was able to hook back up with him and get my phone. So I was really lucky, like all the way around there. So I would advise people not to do that. Don't, when you go, and that's why I was really grateful that I met the people here last year that I did, because as I said, this time I was able to just call my driver and say, hey, I'm coming, can you pick me up? And I knew I was going to be good. And I had a flight during the day, it wasn't at night. And so, he knew what I looked like, but, I sent him a picture and all of that. So yeah, so that's what I would advise people to do. And if you make connections, and that's what I like about doing your research ahead of time. If you make connections with, like, in your Facebook groups, and you can reach out to people and say, hey, who do you know that can pick me up, that speaks English, that's a driver, that's part of what they do, and people have had good experiences with. That's what I would tell people to do. Especially if you are a female traveling by yourself and you got all these bags, and people can tell, it's like, oh my gosh, she could easily be distracted, and we can take her stuff because you got all your luggage, all of this stuff is going on. So
yeah, that's a good piece of advice. Doesn't matter where you're going, join an expat group on Facebook. I don't use Facebook anymore, but it's worth it to jump on and join an expat group or some sort of group. Medellin has two main ones that I'm familiar with anyway. And you can contact them and ask them, I need a driver to take me to Guatapé. I need somebody to pick me up at the airport. They'll tell you what kind of car this guy's driving, how many times they've used him. I mean, it's all reference based now. That's the way that we buy now. So
Right.
we spend our money. So why not reach out to somebody who knows somebody? Like if I go into Medellin right now, I'll have somebody pick me up. I'm not taking an Uber, not taking
Right.
Didi or anything else. I'm not taking a taxi. I won't do that.
Right.
I would
Yeah, I
just
don't do that.
have a driver on standby. And let me tell you
Yep.
something. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody's got a guy or girl or somebody. I know I got a salsa teacher. I have a Spanish teacher. Somebody knows somebody. So
Right.
just do your research, do due diligence before you hit the road. Don't just show up. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. That's so. What did they say? Don't do what I did my first my first time. But that is absolutely correct.
okay, I'm going to stop the video right here. We'll start part 2 shortly. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Click the bell. Thanks.
We have a YouTube channel. Like it.
Please comment and share if you liked the video.
Please subscribe and kick the bell.